Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the UK National Contact Centre Awards webinar. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We've got about 200 people on the webinar so far, and I can see that there's a lot of familiar names, so welcome back. Quite a lot of new names as well. So welcome to everybody. Joining me this afternoon is Jackie Pringle, who heads up the awards programme for us at the CCMA, and she's going to be joining us later to talk through the judging process in a little bit more detail. Just some housekeeping first of all. So you'll see on the right hand side of your screen there's a chat box, so if you've got any questions at all, just type them in there. If they're technical, our facilitator will pick them up as we go, and any other questions we'll try and pick them up during the webinar, but if not, we'll save them till the end and make sure that we cover those off. If you're having any hearing problems at all or anything like that, you might need to log out and log back in again under Chrome. So Google Chrome is the best search engine to get the best reception and coverage. The webinar is going to last for about 50 minutes, and we will be recording it, so if you do want to pull off a copy and share it with your colleagues, then you'll be able to access it within the next 7 days on the website. You've also got on the website a toolkit, so if you've not already downloaded that, then I do urge you to do that. You'll find it particularly helpful. So what we're going to cover today, well, essentially we're going to try and give you a flavour of the awards programme, talk in a lot more detail about each of the categories, so that we can handle or perhaps give you some advice on some of the more regular questions that we get on the categories. Jackie is then going to talk you through some tips for choosing your best nominations, and in particular, so how do you enter? What is the process? We've made it as simple and straightforward as possible for you, but we'll talk through that in some detail. We will then talk through the judging process, what is involved in that, so it's always good to know what you're letting yourself in for. And we will hear from two of our lead judges, and we're also going to hear from Nicola Hall, who was a winner last year. So Nicola walked away with the coveted Contact Centre Manager of the Year award. So we'll have a chat with Nicola, and then we'll talk a little bit about the awards dinner and share some pics from last year so you can know what to expect. And then finally we'll cover off what additional support is available to you. I've already talked about the toolkit, but we'll talk through a few other things that will help you along the way. So a little bit about the awards programme then. So many of you will know that the CCMA, who run these awards, celebrated 25 years last year. So we set up the awards programme the year after the CCMA was established, which means, of course, that the awards programme this year is in its 25th year, which we will absolutely, as you can imagine, make sure we celebrate in style. These awards very much have a people focus. So they're not about technology solutions, they're not for suppliers, they're very much focused on the people that work in our industry. So there are individual categories, there are team categories, and there are organisation categories. We do believe the awards have a very good reputation across the industry. So, you know, once we put a winner on the stage, we're very confident that they are the best of the best across the industry. And part of that is because we put them through a comprehensive judging process, and very importantly, we do personal face-to-face interviews. So everyone that reaches the finals will have a face-to-face interview. Sometimes that's a site visit, and other times that is panel judging. Again, we'll talk you through how that split works later on in the webinar. And importantly, to say, all of the judges are people that work full-time in the industry. So they've all been there, got the t-shirt, often CCMA members or previous award winners. We don't have suppliers as members. So we don't have suppliers as judges, rather. So I'd like to just ask you a quick question, if I may, which would prove helpful for me. Have you entered these awards programme before? So if I put a quick poll up on the screen, if you can click whether you've entered last year or you've entered in previous years, or yes, you've entered but a different organisation, whether you enter awards but this is the first time you've taken part in these awards, or no, you've never entered awards before, so this is the first time you're kind of dipping your toe in the water. So if you can just click one of those boxes, that would be great. That just helps give me and Jackie an idea in terms of the people that are on today's webinar, how many are brand new to the experience and how many will already have a good idea of the things that we're going to talk through. So I'll just give it a few more seconds. If you can just click, so that's 60%, 70% of people have clicked. So if you can just click one of those boxes just for a few more seconds, and then I will share the results with everybody. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for that. And you can see some of those results on screen. So the main one for me there is, have you entered these awards before? And 67% of you have taken part before. So that's great. Thank you very much. So a little bit about the awards programme from last year. So in 2019 we had 300 entries from almost 100 organisations. We don't care on the size of the organisation, so we get nominations from very large companies and also very small. You've got a 10-seat call centre, that's absolutely fine. We don't mind what sector you're from, everybody can apply. We last year shortlisted to 10 organisations per category, and at the awards dinner we had 740 people attended the gala dinner to hear the winners announced. So just to give you a flavour of some of the organisations that took part last year and walked away with gold awards. So I've picked out some names that will be familiar to you there. They're all good brands, but as I say, regardless of which sector you're from, all are welcome. There's a little insight to the awards dinner, which we hold at the brewery. We've held it there for the last 5 or 6 years. It's a great venue. We have fabulous feedback from everybody that comes along. It's a very entertaining night, and I'll share a little bit more about the evening towards the end of the webinar. So I'd like to talk you through the categories. So the first thing to say is that the categories are unchanged from last year. So each year we carry out a review and make sure that all of the categories are still very relevant, because we are in a very evolving, changing industry. But all the categories are very similar, the same as last year. So I'll try and cover off some of the key questions that we get each year. So Contact Centre Manager of the Year. When you put your nomination forward, we don't ask you to select whether it's a large, medium or small contact centre. It's all one single form. And when the nominations come in, we'll determine the split of large, medium and small. So last year, I think it was small was less than 50 seats, medium was less than 200 and large was over 200. But we'll see what nominations come through and then we break that down. We've separated out Contact Centre Manager of the Year for an outsourced operation. Very different dynamic in outsourcers. Those of you that are in outsourcers will know exactly what I mean. Very commercial focus to the contact centre manager role often. So that is a separate category. Just taking you to Team Leader / Manager of the Year. So we've called it Leader or Manager because, again, different organisations have different titles for the same role, but effectively that role is for people that are looking after a team of frontline advisors. Again, it's one nomination form, but it's a very, very popular category. And when the nominations come in, we do split them into the discipline. So what I mean by that is on the night we will have a shortlist for Team Manager of the Year Sales, Team Manager of the Year Service, Team Manager Digital, Team Manager Outsourcing. We also have Rising Star, which is a team leader category. So if you nominate a team leader and they have been in their role for less than 12 months, either acting or permanent, then they automatically go into Rising Star. So it's the only category where we have Rising Star, but it is a great opportunity to catch those people that have been in a team lead role for less than a year, but are doing really well in that role. Complaints manager of the year. I think last year we called it customer relations. People said, well, we call ourselves complaints, so that's complaints manager or customer relations manager, that applies. Contact centre support manager or contact centre support team. So these are people that provide support to their main activities is supporting the contact centre. So that might be HR, it might be IT, it might be Insight, it might be your analysts team, but it's somebody whose main role is providing that support. So, we know contact centres really well. We know that there are always people that might sit outside the contact centre structure, but that you feel that they are part of your team for the level of support that they give to you. So organisation categories, obviously those three topics are very topical in terms of diversity, inclusion, positive impact on the community, and most effective employee engagement programme. They're all things that we know you're very active doing, and we know that we're going to get some great nominations there. We're looking for the contact centre influence there. So we know that lots of your organisations will have a diversity and inclusion programme, but we want evidence that the contact centre is actively involved in that programme. It's not a huge organisation and the contact centre is removed from it. We want to see a contact centre influence or participation, active participation in that programme in order to be considered. So I'm now going to hand you over to Jackie, and Jackie's going to talk you through in a bit more detail the how to choose your best nominations. But I will say, if you've got any queries about those categories at all, then just pick up the phone, give us a call. You can speak to me or Jackie or indeed any of the team. If you're not sure which categories enter, or you've got a really good person, you're not sure where they fit, just pick the phone up, just have a chat, and we'll advise you. You can enter one person or one team for two categories, I should say that as well. That happens quite often. So you might go for Contact Centre Manager of the Year or Customer Experience Manager. It might be one person nominating for both. That's absolutely fine. So sorry, just before I hand you over to Jackie, I'd like to get an idea of which categories you're thinking of entering. So it's really just to give us a good guide. We're not going to hold you to this, but that's a list of all the categories. If you can just click on which of those you're going to enter, and remember at this stage you can enter as many categories as you like, but if you can click on those, I'll just give you a few minutes to do that, and then I can share that with you. Some categories are incredibly popular. I already talked about Team Manager of the Year. It's a really popular category. Contact Centre Manager of the Year obviously is very popular. But if you want to click on which of those you are considering entering that would be really helpful. Thank you. I'll just give that a couple more seconds. Okay, I'll just wrap that up now and I'll share the results for you. Okay, thank you very much. That's great. So if you just have a look down there, you can see some of the categories that people are entering. No big surprises there, the usual popular categories. And it is worth looking at some of those more unique categories like resource planning manager, quality manager, where there aren't so many of you in an organisation. That naturally leads to less nominations, so they're worth looking at as well. Okay, so thank you very much. That's really helpful. I'm now going to hand you over to Jackie Pringle, who heads up the awards programme. does all the logistics organising, and you'll be all your emails will come from probably Jackie during the process. So, good opportunity to introduce Jackie to you. And Jackie's going to talk you through some hints and tips on how to choose your best nominations.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, so I thought it would be a good idea just to take a minute to think about how to choose your best nominations. From talking to organisations that have taken part before, many of them say to me that it's good to have like a key point of contact or a gatekeeper as such. Sometimes this can be your communications team, somebody it's a senior member of the leadership team. Other times it can just be somebody's side of desk activity, which we know is very common in the call centre industry for people to do things, side of desk. But whoever that is, especially if you're putting a lot of nominations together, they can share the details of the awards internally, let them know what the categories are, maybe even put invites into people's diaries. I have known companies that have put in, could be attending the brewery, placeholders, could be attending panel judging, placeholders. You may want to do a webinar similar to we're doing now, or have a conference call across the organisation of all the relevant departments. So, you can hold a workshop to identify your best nominations. You will have all been through the end of year appraisal process recently. So, who are your exceeded? Who are your outstanding people? That's another good place for you to look for where those top people are if they don't spring to mind. Make sure you reach out to all areas of the organisation that are suitable. Don't just think about your contact centre. Think about those people that really help you on a day-to-day basis. People in resource planning, people in the training department. Who is it that provides your MI for you? Is it your comms team? Is it, who is it? Because they might be very suitable for contact centre support team. So yeah, use your internal comms to share who's been shortlisted as well. Really use it as a recognition tool. So when we announce the shortlist, if you've been shortlisted or got people shortlisted, shout about it from the rooftops. It really does make them feel absolutely great. So nominating is very, very simple. You'll find the nomination forms on the awards website. It's not the CCMA website, but you can get to it from there if you need to. It really is very simple and shouldn't take long. You go onto the website, you download the forms, and then basically just fill them in. It shouldn't take longer than 30 minutes to complete each one. Please note the deadline. We really don't extend, as Anne-Marie said before, so it does need to be with us by midnight on the 21st of February. You can make as many nominations as you want. We've kept them absolutely free of charge, which is brilliant. But as Anne-Marie said, make sure that you're choosing your best people. Sometimes it's quality of the nomination, not quantity. So the nomination form, there's just some standard questions on there. One which is just about collecting the details of the nominator, the nominee, contact details, name, address, stuff like that. And then just two really high level questions. What are the key deliverables? Outline the achievements over the past 12 months. And when you do that, make sure that you talk about colleague, customer, commercial, the whole range of your balanced scorecard. So you get that whole story across. And then the second question, it's always what I call your X factor moment. It's for you to say, why do you think this person, team or programme should win this award? So, it doesn't come naturally to us to sell ourselves, does it? But, this is an opportunity for you to absolutely sell why they should be winning, or you should be winning if you're nominating yourself. There is an opportunity to attach supporting information if you want to. We highly recommend an organisation chart because it really helps the judges to understand your organisation. But you can attach what you think is relevant. So it might be customer engagement results, it might be customer satisfaction results, things like that. But yeah, it just whatever you think is relevant. It really helps to back up your story. So let's hear from one of last year's winners and why she thinks you should enter and how she found the whole experience. So Nicola, thanks for joining us this afternoon and taking time out of your day. So, wow, who'd have thought this time last year nominations will have just been being put together? Did you nominate yourself or did somebody else nominate you?
No, so the way we do it is we have a group of people who focus on colleague experience within the contact centre. And what they do is they get together and agree who we're going to nominate as a collective.
And what attracted you to the UK Awards in particular?
So we've entered them before, and I do joke with Anne Marie that I was going to keep coming back until they got sick of me. But every year we've entered, we've learned something. So if I think back to when we first started to enter, the quality of the submissions is really different now. So, you know, we use it to benchmark what we're doing, you know, against other companies. Are we doing the right thing? And can we pick anything up from companies that, you know, we meet going through the judging process? But for me, the reason these awards are a regular entry from us is that they're so robust. The judging process is so detailed that for me, the integrity around these awards, and if you win them, it really is well deserved because, you know, you've had to do a lot of work and showcase that to get there.
How did you decide what category to enter? Because Sage have, you know, entered quite a few, as we said before.
Well, we try where possible to enter as many categories as we can because then, you know, it's bigger recognition for the team who work here. But the description in the categories is really helpful. So we try to match that up with work and our projects or people's jobs. But then a couple of times I will say that we've chosen somebody to enter in one category, and as we've started writing the entry, it's really clear that they go in another category when we look at the description. So I would urge people just to spend time when they're writing their entries to have the category descriptions next to them.
How did you find the judging process then?
No, it wasn't daunting. It was tough, but it's tough if what you've put in there, you know, you haven't been totally honest about. So, you know, if your numbers are what you know they are, it's actually really enjoyable to talk through them. And feedback I got when we went through it was that the performance was, people couldn't actually believe it until they'd seen the contact centre and been taken through what we'd done. Because sometimes on paper, you know, it looks too good to be true. So it was really, really good to be able to showcase that with the judges. But they were good fun. They had sense of humour. And, you know, we had them for a full day here at Sage, and it was really enjoyable to have them here.
And what impact has the win had on your role or career?
Do you know, it does give you a bit of an extra voice in the industry. And recently, you know, we hosted a best practice event here, and it was based around really my application and the team manager in my area who won the sales manager of the year. It was about a operational transformation project we'd gone through, and we're sort of a year down the line, and we've been thinking about, you know, is it as impressive as we thought it was? And it was brilliant to showcase it and get such positive feedback, you know, from other people in the industry. And also it gets you to know other people in the industry, so you can go and ask people for ideas or opinions on things you're trying to do. So it definitely gives you that wider network, which is brilliant in my job.
And lastly, I mean, just how did it feel when you won? How did you celebrate when you got back?
So I was really shocked at first, and everybody will say that, you know, because but you enter to win ultimately. So, you know, I was really, really proud, and Anne Marie always corrects me and tell me it's an individual award, but for me, it really cemented all of the work our team had done. We'd gone through a tough year, and for myself and one of my team to be able to stand up there that night was just it made all of the hard work worthwhile. It really did, and we did celebrate that night.
Oh, thanks, Nicola. Yeah, I mean, I was there that night and I did see that you celebrated quite hard and it was just wonderful to see. So thanks so much for joining us today, and so many of your points were so valid, and I'm sure that everybody's found it useful. So I'll hand you back to Anne-Marie now.
So thanks very much for that, Nicola. That was really helpful. Thank you, and thank you, Jackie. So I'm going to just talk you through the stages of judging. So 2 stages. The first stage is the online nomination. So you submit your nomination by the deadline. There can be no extensions to that. The deadline is the 21st of February. And then a panel of judges will review all of the nominations, and then they'll come up with the final shortlist of 10 per category. The next stage is face-to-face judging. And as I said earlier, that's carried out either by panel or site visits. So the site visits are for the individual categories, and the panel sessions are for team and organisation judging sessions. The panel judging, we've got the dates for that already, which is week commencing the 30th of March and week commencing the 20th of April. And if you are shortlisted, obviously we'll liaise with you in terms of your specific slot and location. And then the site visits, the judges will be coming out on site throughout March and April. Typically for the panel judging, you've got 4 judges, and you will have a 20-minute speaker slot and then 20 minutes Q&A from the panel. And then for the judging visit, we do a 360-degree interview effectively. So we have a tour of the operation, we have an hour with the finalist, and then we interview their boss, their direct boss, and then we interview a group of their direct reports, and if appropriate, one of their colleagues. So it's a full 360. So we're on site for a couple of hours when we do the on-site visits, and typically we will have 3 or 4 judges that come and do the visit. Whether it's a panel or face-to-face judging site, we have a lead judge for each of those sessions, and then support judges to carry out that very important part of the process. So the most important part, of course, at this stage is that initial nomination form. So you want this to be as good as possible to get you into that finalist list. So I thought I'd share some advice on that initial nomination form. So the key thing is to provide the judges with a high-level overview of your achievements. So please be clear and concise. The key thing to keep in your mind is make it easy for the judges to understand what it is that you're saying. They don't know your business. They don't perhaps understand it as well as you know your own business. So avoid using any jargon or any terminology that they might not understand. Talk through the start point and the end point. So if you're talking about, for instance, best employee engagement program, then you want to say, okay, here was the situation, here's how we started, here's the things we needed to improve, and here was the end result. So you're effectively telling your story. It's amazing how many nominations we get through and they haven't provided any data, any metrics to demonstrate what's been achieved. So it's really, really important, I can't stress this enough, to put some metrics in there. So if you have moved the goalposts from A to B, if you've made an improvement from 10% situation to a 20% situation, that all helps, one, let the judges know what you've achieved, but also provides that bit of context as well. If you've got any results from employee opinion surveys, any feedback from your teams, any impact on the customer experience, any cost savings, all those types of things, then make sure that if they are relevant to the nomination, that particular category, put them in. We do get nominations where they pile everything in, and sometimes there are things in there that are just not relevant to the category. So if you're talking about, let's say, a resource planner, then focus everything on what their main role is, what you would expect of a resource planner, and the achievements that they've made and the impact that they have made. So you can get a little bit distracted down the route of, oh, and they raised money and they did this and they're really nice people and everybody loves them, and it kind of wanders off and it gets a bit waffly. So, back to that earlier point about keep it clear, keep it concise. You've only got 750 word count, so make sure each word counts. If you've got any examples that you can share as well to bring it to life, that's always really, really helpful. I think the final point there is about authenticity. We know the industry really well. We understand it really well, and we know an authentic story. So just tell it as it is. Sometimes we get nominations that have been passed to the marketing department or to an external body, and you can spot them a mile off that they've been written by somebody outside of the operation. My advice would be not to do that. My advice would be just tell us your story, and it comes across far more authentic that way. So I'd like to introduce you now to two of our lead judges, Michael Sherwood from Atom Bank and Jennifer Turner from Ensley Insurance. These guys have been lead judges for us for a number of years. They're both previous award winners and they know our judging process really, really well. Hi, Michael. Thank you for joining us.
No worries, it's a pleasure.
So, Michael, tell me what it is that you're looking for in an award winner when you go and judge them.
Just before I answer that, can I just say that I've worked in the contact center industry for 20 years now, and have entered lots of awards, both at individual level and team level. And I can honestly say to those that are listening that are thinking about whether or not they're going to spend the time submitting an entry, the CCMA awards are by far my favourite, and they're my favourite because they are solely about our industry and for the industry. Some awards are about marketing and suppliers and generating cash, quite frankly. The CCMAs really are very different, and what I love about them is that they're all about recognising and celebrating talent in our industry. And then we recognise that talent through a really transparent and robust process. And then more importantly, we have a big old party at the brewery. So I just wanted to say that. So in terms of nominating someone at individual level, I guess there's a few things I'd say. The first thing is nominate somebody who you know is good, and it might sound quite simple and common sense this, but nominate somebody who you guys know is good and that everybody else knows is good. Now the chances are, if they're a go-to person in the organisation and have a good reputation internally, then they will be good, and that will come through both in the entries and the quality of the entries, and also during the judging process. A couple of other things I'd say is make sure that the story is a compelling one. That's been touched on a few times. That's full of passion and purpose. Cover off operational skill sets, including like technical elements, etc. So coaching, for example, but also make sure you cover off, the people side of the entries. You pick out the human stories. So we're a people in a customer-focused industry, and although tech is important, draw out those people and customer stories, because that's why we do what we do, and it's these things that really come through and make the entries compelling. So be emotional would be a tip, and be inspirational. Other things, so the best, again, this has been touched on, but the very best stories are true stories, and they can also be quite a long time in the making. This has also been touched on. At an individual level and also at the team level, it can sometimes take many years to get to a point where you're performing at the very highest level, because you've made mistakes and you've learned by them, and then you've tweaked things and you've improved as a result. So please tell us about the journey and how you got to be the best, the ups, the downs, and the learnings. So make sure your entries are authentic and credible and are supported by really compelling evidence. And then my final tip would be to do lots of sanity checking internally before you submit your entry. Socialise those internally and critique quite a bit before you submit. So they would be my tips, Anne-Marie.
Right, that's really helpful. Thank you, Michael. Just another question. What's the biggest mistake you see people making when they submit a nomination?
So I think face to face, once you get through to is nerves can sometimes get the better of people. And it doesn't matter how many times we try and reassure people, because we do make it so that it's not kind of, I guess, daunting and scary, and we try our best to make people feel at ease. But sometimes just the whole nerves can take hold, and then as a result, they don't get across the things that they perhaps would have done or should have done. So try and relax and enjoy the process. I think also some of the other things that I mentioned around the story being true and taking a lot of time to think about it also helps, because when you then get through to the face-to-face piece, because it's a true story and it's compelling, it's easier to tell.
Great. Okay, that's fabulous. Thank you very much. Some good tips there. Finally, what advice can you give people considering whether or not to nominate?
Just go for it. Make sure that you've got a story which is compelling, authentic and true. But if you're thinking about it, there's no better awards to go for than these. Just go for it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michael. That's really, really helpful. I'm now going to introduce you to Jen Turner. Jen is Head of Customer Operations at Ensley Insurance. Hi, Jen. Jen, similar questions really. What are the key attributes you look for in a nomination?
I think, to echo some of the points that Michael made, the first thing is around authenticity. So sometimes you'll go out on a site visit and you'll have had a nomination that'll have had lots and lots of wonderful things in it. We then need to see the evidence of those things, and there have been one or two occasions, not many, where I've been in receipt of a fantastic nomination form that's got loads of great stuff in it. Specifically, it tends to come around the people side of things, and people make claims about their engagement and all the wonderful things that people do and how everybody really gels together. Obviously, when we do the site visits and we go out and speak to team members on the floor, the worst thing that can happen after that is that you get the kind of tumbleweed moments. I suppose, so I look for in the nominations that kind of people-centric story, because if it's about the team and the organisation, at the end of the day, it's people that run the machine and keep the wheels turning. And then I love to take the opportunity to go on that site visit and then get the chance to speak to people, so people within the organisation are validating what's in the nomination form really on those visits, not me. I think I also, always through going, you've got a word count, you need to be succinct. Again, I love to see a story. And a story is not always just the first year that somebody comes out as top of the year-end appraisal. I think it was Nick that said, actually stories come out of tough times. Did the contact centre go through a big change or an operational excellence programme, a transformation or even a restructure that put everybody, the individual and the organisation through some kind of, tough times? Those stories are great to see. And again, give us the evidence of the X to Y improvements that you got on that journey.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jen. That's really helpful. What are the big mistakes you see people making during the process?
Yeah, so I think from a panel perspective, it can be quite daunting. Like you said, there's going to be 4 judges. I think to go back to your earlier point, Anne-Marie, we've all got that T-shirt. Many of us have kind of been on the other side of the fence where we've, actually been judged by a panel. We understand what it's like working in your organisation, and the first thing I always say, whether it's an individual or whether it's a panel award, at the end of the day, it's not a very British thing to do, is it, to kind of blow your own trumpet? It's not a job interview. You've all got jobs. That's the reason that some of you are going to be nominated either individually or as part of your organisations. It really is one of those times in life where the right thing to do is to go and show off the best. Tell us why your organisation is so great, why your people are so great, and why your achievements are so great, and enjoy it. Michael said it's not the easiest thing to do. We can tell you, as many times as possible, stay at ease. But, again, if you're well prepped, your nomination stacks up, I genuinely do think that once you get in front of those judges, once you get your initial nerves out of the way, you will enjoy that process. It's a fantastic opportunity, not just to tell everybody else, but for you to also kind of verbally remind yourself of the things that you've achieved over the last 12 months.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jen. That's some really helpful hints and tips. So thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate it. I think just to echo some of the points that came out there as well, we know that people get nervous. Feel free to take notes in with you. That's absolutely fine, and you'll find the judges really warm and helpful. You know, they're not there to kind of shine lights in your eyes. You'll find them. They do genuinely put you at ease. So thanks very much for that, guys. What you're looking at now is a picture of the entrance to the brewery. Many of you will remember it. We've used this venue for many years. It's a fantastic venue. Tickets will go on sale on the 24th of February. It is always a sellout event, and we restrict it to one table per organisation because of that. So as soon as the tables go on sale, you'll know by that point whether you've put your nominations in, how many nominations you've put in, and how many seats you'll need. And if that is not enough to convince you, then we always have a surprise celebrity guest on the evening. So you'll recognise a few people from previous years there. Keith Duffy from Boyzone, the lovely Ashley Banjo from Diversity, Martin Kemp of Spandau Ballet and EastEnders and various other things. And Mark Wright there, we got him just after he'd come off Strictly Come Dancing, just before he was due to get married. He was particularly popular. So yeah, there'll be another surprise, and it will be a surprise celebrity guest on the evening. So any of the winners will get their photograph automatically taken with them, but also they do stay around for a couple of hours afterwards, so you can queue and get your photograph taken with them as well. So finally, just to wrap up and say once again, there is a lot of support available to you. We're a friendly organisation, so we'd love to chat to you at any time at all. Drop us a note, pick up the phone, and we'll have a chat with you about categories, about what you're thinking of, any advice at all that we can give you to help you decide which categories to enter. Then you're looking at Amy Horlock there and Jackie Pringle, but the whole of the CCMA team can help you through that. You can email or you can phone us, and you know, we're really looking forward to seeing your nominations. So the first point of call is the website, everything you need to know about the awards, and as more information becomes available, so you've obviously got the toolkit there. That's probably the most important thing to download and share with your teams. As you've got blogs that will come up regularly on the website, on all our social media, you can track where the judges are and what they're doing and where we are in the process. So yeah, as much help as you need, guys. You know, we're here. We're more than happy to help. Really look forward to accepting your nominations, reviewing some of them, confirming a shortlist, and absolutely to celebrating the best of the best in our industry on the 12th of May at the brewery in London. So thanks very much for joining us, and look forward to hearing from you and look forward to reading your nominations. Thanks, have a great afternoon and a good weekend. Bye.